Operation Memes vs. Machines, more commonly known as Memes 1, was the very first ever April Fools operation that was launched by Potato MvM Servers. The contest started on February 1st of 2019 and lasted until February 28th. The judging ran between March 1st to the 3rd, although this process would repeat itself later towards the end of the month, as the contest would reopen until March 28th, where the judging was ran once again between March 29th to the 31st, just in time for the campaign to launch on the very next day, which would be April Fools, overtaking Canteen Crasher for 1 week at first, but then it got extended to April 16 of 2019, before that operation would rotate back in. The idea behind this operation is essentially what you think it is.
The memes.
The guidelines here were quite lax, where the mission creators were allowed to put in basically anything they could think of for entertainment. Jokes, memes, and gimmicks of the such. Of course, the judging barrier is still there, so anything relating to satire, sarcasm, dark humor, or just straight up being unfunny wouldn't be accepted, although it seems like some of those things were lost over the years. By the way, I'm paraphrasing all of this from the TF2 wiki, because just like the many documents around this time, most of them are effectively lost media. Although, you can look at the document for Memes 1 through an old YouTube video made by the Mako26. For anyone who isn't an old head, he used to cover the community side of MVM for a while before branching out into laptop reviews and benchmarks. From what I can glean at from the 7-page document, it's really not that much different from how Canteen Crasher handled it, but it does share the same rules as Menace vs. Machines contest. 1 pass requires you get in, and you could collaborate with up to 3 others for 1 mission. There are of course a few unique things about it other than having looser mission guidelines. For one, you could have an infinite number of waves, provided the whole mission was all within a sufficient time frame, which was like 15 to 30 minutes back then. The other unique thing is that you could submit up to a maximum of 2 missions. As far as I'm aware, this is the only operation that ever enforces submission limit, which is shocking to think about considering that the next mainland operation at the time would completely ignore that idea. There was never really a strict limit past Memes 1. The closest to that is having private submissions from dedicated content creators, which Digital Directive and Moonlight used to do. Though given that the most recent operation hosted upwards of 60 missions, which was like 2 times of what a modern day operation would have, I wouldn't be too surprised if the submission limit starts becoming a thing in the near future. The judging for this contest is rather weird. The reason why there were 2 separate sessions during March was that the judging was a hybrid between Titanium Tank and Canteen Crasher and Madness judging. The 2-session thing was a thing of the former, and the pass-fail system was implemented by the latter. If your mission was funny, then it would be accepted. If it sucked, then it would be rejected and have to be resubmitted for the second judging session. And if it was still unfunny, well then tough shit. Now, since this meme operation is the first of its kind, the document provided 3 example missions for creators to look at and take inspiration from. One of them, Qualified Treatment, is unfortunately lost media, as I could not for the life of me find the pop file or know exactly what went on in it other than having memes according to old messages. The other 2 though, Salty Boys and Titanium Turmoil, are both Titanium Tank reject missions, and luckily to this day have functional Dropbox links. I did manage to experience both of these missions, and I'll try to summarize the both of them as short as possible. Salty Boys plays as your standard mission, with the notable exceptions being the namesakes of every single robot being Salty Blank Boys, and every single bot icon having a salt shaker. Its final wave has a joke from SpongeBob SquarePants, with the punchline being anchovies, before ending with a train line of tanks and a chief fish scout. Titanium Turmoil, on the other hand, features a lot of meme and bullshit robot templates, but in retrospect, you might actually consider this mission a high quality shitpost. It did have creative bot designs for its time, while creating a somewhat surprisingly balanced experience. You might be more surprised to learn that the mission carries a lot of history behind its name. I'll talk about it more when I do eventually cover Titanium Tank's rejected missions, but basically the mission traumatized the original judging team back then, so much that it inspired a lot of memes and inside jokes within the community. So you could say that these 3 example missions are what inspired Potato to create a dedicated operation where the missions were quite memey and you don't have to take things seriously. As far as the popularity of Memes 1 is concerned, the only fact we know of is that apparently the 50 servers they had at the time were all at full capacity. Regardless, we can all accept that Memes 1 was a massive hit at the time, as it went on to inspire more meme-based operations in the future. To the organizers of Potato, however, the launch of Memes 1 and having it extend for an additional week caused the next mainland operation to have its deadline be extended, which was originally June. Instead, they decided that Menace vs. Machines would be released whenever the campaign is done, which we know today would eventually be November of 2019. As for whether Memes 1 was directly responsible for that, I really can't say because there has been a multitude of factors during that time. Server problems, massively backloaded judging queue, all that. There were two medals that you could have gotten from this operation, the Memes vs Machines Baked Potato and the Memes vs Machines Potato Server. The latter was only available to content creators while the former was available to everyone. How they distributed the baked potato though was quite strange. This is the only operation where the medal everyone can grab can be earned by playing on their servers for 1 hour, or how they called it back then, time wasted. How they track this is by the wave success time, basically how long a wave takes to complete. I guess they wanted people to not worry about starting the mission from the very beginning for completion's sake, and to allow hopping between servers mid-session without impeding progress. It was definitely the right call though, since the limited pool of servers they had at the time did actually max out. But yeah, it's a very weird and obfuscated criteria just to earn the original baked potato. A little fun fact though is that this operation could have featured charity medals, $5 at the minimum, but we all know how that went. There were 14 missions offered within Memes 1, all of which are of intermediate difficulty, which does make sense. After all, the meme missions were solely made for entertainment, but of course you could argue they were trying to play it safe with what is basically the pioneer of its own genre. And as we know today, there would eventually be meme missions having advanced and expert labels. As for how you can play them today, look, I'm gonna be real, Potato has always been kind of just weird when it comes to archiving meme missions. The thing about these types of missions is that they're simply novelty. They're memes. What I'm trying to say is that these types of missions have a set expiration date and were not meant to be played outside of their time frame. Today, however, missions like these occasionally get rotated into the archive servers, but only when April Fools runs around, which is basically every first 2 weeks of April. Outside of that, unless you own the assets yourself, they're unplayable year-round. But
Soggy flaps.
I hear you asking, how are you able to capture all the meme missions footage in 2K resolution? Well, I did manage to get my hands on the meme assets myself and play through them, but there were problems with getting footage. The biggest issue was gathering people in the first place. Now, I'm not joking when I say this, but every single person I try to get and play with while pinging in the Potato Discord have all complained about how miserable it is to get through Memes 1. I mean, fair, given that the missions were made for their time. It's really hard to point and laugh at the jokes when they're rather outdated, so you have a much more objective outlook when it comes to playing them. But still, I will vouch for them and say that most of the missions here are genuinely a grueling experience. By the way, all these missions predate any source mod and rescript tools that exist today. So by modern standards, there's not anything too crazy here other than visual changes, bizarrely designed templates, and custom sounds. And just so I don't repeat myself over and over, yes, the vast array of missions on this operation still suffer from the awful pacing and a lot of padding that Canteen Crash Trip Madness had at the time. As an alternative, I did run a script or pop file, what have you, on my own time, where I have the power of 6 competent players and am capable of soloing through the entire mission. So there may be certain points where I am crit boosted and doing a billion damage all by my lonesome. I was originally not planning on ranking them on a tier list because of this fact, but I did a poll on the Potato Discord and they were still interested. So don't take my rankings too seriously, although it's not like you were supposed to take these missions seriously in the first place. Let's start with the first mission on the list, HoHoHoes Holiday. This is a 5-wave mission, and for the most part, it has a lot of references to Freak Fortress. Throughout, you'll fight bots like Ninja Spies and Scouts, and dealing with bosses such as Spencer Putis, Demo Pan, and Painless Cupcake in their own separate waves. In between these encounters, there's not too much going on, besides funny bot templates and seeing a couple other references. One reference you want to keep in mind, however, is the gnome meme. It was a super popular meme at the time, and let me just say, this gnome reference is gonna pop up throughout most of Memes 1, so you better get accustomed to this. The final wave is a boss wave, and you'll fight the last freak of the mission being the Christian Brutal Sniper. It uses a Tribalman Shiv with a massive range and deals triple the damage. Other than that, it's kind of alright, though it's not necessarily a mission I would replay on the archives. HoHoHoes Holiday is C. Jester Joker Jamble is another 5-way mission. The one thing this mission really loves doing over and over again is projectile spam. Many of the bots fire off rockets and grenades in massive quantities within a burst, but at the very least they do tone down their damage at certain points. Besides that, there are a few robots of the Uncanny variety. You'll have the third wave comprising entirely of scouts for its first half, before sending out giant heavies back to back in massive quantities. A rather stale wave all around. The fourth wave is a major crits joke. This is also one of the other jokes that will be referenced time and time again, as we'll get through memes 1, all thanks to Titanium Turmoil. Here, we've got many crit boosted soldiers of several varieties before the wave ends with a sergeant crits that needs to be shot down towards a certain threshold before it suicides. The final wave is just projectile spam from the vast array of robots that fire infinitely, with the obligatory final tank. Then towards the end, it has a rapid fire Chief Heavy dealing a lot of damage before sending off the mission. The only memorable thing here really is the spam the mission insists upon doing. Jester Joker Jamble is D. Mediocre Nonsense is a 6-wave mission, and a rather memey one at that. But honestly, if we're comparing this mission to the others of the same type, this one is absolutely terrible. The mission uses a lot of bots that are very annoying to deal with, both visually and in a gameplay sense. A few of them throw players around the map in a very disorienting manner, and the majority of the bots here have behavior modifiers push, basically rushing towards the hatch instead of grabbing the bomb. And there's also just far too many of these guys that'll just instantly kill you, because I guess one shot equals funny according to this mission. Despite how frustrating the mission can be, there are some elements to take note of. Wave 2 having a Titan boss reused from Spyro shipping, but with crit arrow spam this time. There's a wave full of banner spam, giving hints to the kill feed that you need to get close to the chief soldier for it to kill itself. The final wave has these robo tornado demos with tide turners that spin around and are extremely tanky, but hey, at least they don't survive forever. At a certain point where you least expect it, you'll be insta-killed by a nuke demo and be forced to run around the map killing off tiny engineers. There's a chief soldier shooting explosions in a map-wide radius, making it so that Uber canteens are the only way to counter it. Then you finish off with a chief shotgun heavy named Don Ivan that bleeds and marks you for death while barely doing any damage. Overall, it's a very tedious meme mission with a lot of frustrating elements that did not need to be here. Mediocre Nonsense is F. Insomniacs Insanity is a 4-wave mission. The first wave is a reference to the gnome meme the entire way through. Second wave are sexual references. Erasmus barks off like an animal as it sends out references to fetishes. Yeah, if you know, you know. Third wave is a Payday 2 reference, with all the enemies and specials presented along their voice lines. Then it ends off with Almir Listo talking, before a chief demo comes out nuking players in this radius being referred to as Overkill Studios. The fourth and final wave starts out with references to My Hero Academia. You get several fast tanks drifting around like running in the 90s before ending off with robots from G.I. Joe. If you're wondering why I sounded robotic within the past several seconds, it's because the experience is just referential humor the entire way through. Not much else to the mission really. Well, except for the chief soldier at the end, which is almost a 1-on-1 copy of the Chief Quickie demo from Rocky Ravage. That's the last thing I want to remember from this bygone era. Insomniacs Insanity is D. What Have I Done is a 10-wave mission.
Jesus Christ.
If you really want to know that meme missions were made for their time, look no further than the mini jetpack pyros and their name tags on wave 1.
Whoa, 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 hey.
Other than that, there isn't much to this mission's 2/3 of it other than bot names and resizing the bots to be big or small, including their weapons at certain points. A few gimmicks thrown in here and there, but otherwise, yeah, not too much going on. For the last 3 waves, the 7th wave ends with a paper-thin chief soldier, readying up for a dud 8th wave, then waiting 36 seconds for a chief scout to drop down on a 9th wave, before getting to the 10th and final wave that is chock full of sniper bots alongside a few tanks. That's really it for this one. It has one joke that aged extremely poorly, but otherwise it's an absolute slog to get through. What Have I Done is F. Chili Sabotage is a 6-wave mission that shows a lot of qualities with Salty Boys. Matter of fact, I'd say it's a clone of it. You've got a vast majority of icons and robot name tags relating to chili peppers. Now I would have said there are no gnome references, however when you take a look into the pop file itself, you'll be jump scared by an ASCII art of the meme itself. But otherwise, yeah, the gameplay is rather normal but with a meme flavor on top. The second half does get a bit interesting, wave 4 ending out with giants having boss health bars presenting out their crusty ass icons. Then you got wave 5 starting out with a chief heavy named, yeah, I'm not saying this out loud. This wave in particular plays normally until the mission spawns a train line of tanks and punchies to destroy. The final wave has JoJo references, but again, it plays normally for the most part. Up until towards the end where you got several tiny giant supports following alongside a chief demo that shoots demo bots as grenades. Their unique icon is a reference to one of the mission makers at the time, and his name's Nuclear Meme Lord. Overall, it's got some bizarre elements and a theme going on, but does play as your somewhat typical mission, which, hey, I mean, it's aged somewhat alright now. Chili Sabotage is C. WTF Mk2 is another 6-wave mission. In terms of what it has to show for it, the best that the mission could really come up with are bot names and bizarre templates. This mission is genuinely a slog. Even when I was soloing it, the waits were taking upwards of 3 to 5 minutes because the wait times between spawns were so long. This also marks the second time that the mission uses exploding gas to kill you instantly, and also the 4th time that we get a gnome reference for the min heavies on wave 4. Anyway, like before, nothing really happens until the second half. Wave 4 has several heavy bots cosplaying as other classes, but you do get the tank that you might actually call a stand-in tank. It doesn't do anything special other than walk forward, and it can be body blocked easily, but hey, it's nice to see which operation the idea first propped up in. Wave 5, again, doesn't have a lot going on, but towards the end, the Titan bosses return for a 2-in-1 special. The demo Titan is quite literally a copy of the Spyro shipping Titan, while the Pyro just throws exploding gas. The single giant seal gauntlet here is a chief that is impervious to all damage besides melee, and slapping it will instantly kill it, while the mission gives a round of applause for you doing so. The final wave is your second major crits joke of the day. How the mission plays it out is with another Titanium Turmoil reference. Center, get the beggars, which the guy happens to be still around to this day. The wave is still a slog though, as it repeats the same joke for 3 minutes. Then the mission caps off with Sergeant Crits that explodes on death after a couple of seconds. Overall, the things going on within this mission do get very tiring to sit through, and it's all thanks to the padding the mission has going for it. WTF Mk2 is D. Extended Deadline is a 9-wave mission that directly references the server crashes Potato has endured during the Titanium Tank and Canteen Crasher days. Most of the references are about trees and server problems, though they tend to appear much more later towards the second half of the mission. One of the icons you might see is a picture of Soldier's face, which I presume to be the server operator at the time. You do get a couple of meme references here and there, and a few jokey waves that do tend to get rather stale. It does have at least one good setup with a tank troll, if there happens to be a victim. The 8th wave is another major crits joke, but it baits you before sending out every chief bot with low health and a death ball. Oh, and of course, this is where the mission gnomes you in the kill feed. The final wave starts with a tank that teleports onto the hatch. It plays a deploy animation, but doesn't fail the wave. Every other support icon here is fake, because the rest of the wave has you fighting a Captain Campaign Crasher, a Nuke-a-Lot variant firing off massive trees. I'll give it a few points for some of the unique elements, but yeah, consider this a work of art made to honor a historical time period. Extended Deadline is B. TF2 Wood, lowercase. This 6-wave mission has weird robots, weird names, and weird icons. Oh, and wouldn't you know it, there's a freaking gnome on the first wave. A template from Canteen Crasher gets reused here, that being the landmine soldiers from Whirly Wallop. Other than that, the jokes in this mission are very tame and kinda just plays as your typical mission. The final wave only has a few things worth noting. The Scorch Shot Pyros have a map-wide explosion radius that easily kills people that don't buy fire resistance. One of the support bots with an icon being the wall. This one is just a punch sheet that is impervious to all damage. And then there's the final wave having a Pain Train Chief demo. A very short mission to talk about because there really isn't that many interesting elements in its 20 minutes of runtime. TF2 Wood is D. Moving on to Shadows, an 8-wave mission. Now, I would say this is the most fascinating mission of the operation. For one, it is featured on a premiere map with the same name, taking place on a barnyard with complete and utter darkness encircling the map. And there's a secret area you can access at a certain point where it's just a very dimly lit space with a UFO, and the only way to get out is by crossing towards the other side through a hole. It's very unconventional for an MvM map, and it would only take 4 years until another very unconventional mission would feature the map in a non-meme operation. The gimmick that Shadows has going on is that it's all soldier bots, but are all colored in black to camouflage themselves with the darkness. Same goes for the sentry busters here too, and the waves you get through are rather neat. There's quite a variety of soldiers to kill, and there are a few unique encounters. One such as wave 3 having a giant banner trio, but weirdly seems to only target buildings and nothing else. Wave 4 ends off with an invisible soldier. Its health will only display at its spawn location, and the only way you can really track them is by seeing where they fire from or where the sentry targets them. The 6th wave has an unkillable chief soldier. Normally would be unwinnable here until the mission introduces a failsafe being a UFO that sucks in the bomb carrier and destroys both of them and the bomb it carries. And it also plays a rather funky tune.
You've defeated the wave.
Wave 7 has a bunch of Bison soldiers firing off from the void, probably the most annoying part of the mission since they do have damage bonuses. Then it ends with a Titan soldier that is the void. They fire off rockets with large explosions, but even though they can take the bomb, it doesn't seem like they are able to deploy it, so it is essentially a free win by this point. The 8th and final wave is a last stand against most of everything you fought before, while Marasmus casts a variety of Halloween effects. Soldiers spawn from all around the map, and it can get pretty crazy. 2 horsemen can spawn near the hatch if the bomb gets far enough, but you do get a UFO hovering over the hatch as a forgiveness mechanic. They can only save you one time though. Overall, I have to say that it's a very interesting experience made for its time. It's not a meme mission, especially when you compare it to the others on the list, but I was still pleasantly surprised with what it offered. Shadows is A. Pepper Boys is another derivative of Salty Boys. It has names, icons, and some weird templates, but for the most part plays as your standard mission with meme flavor. Though in all honesty, this is probably one of the worst missions here. The gameplay takes itself way too seriously, almost like it completely forgot to balance itself around the intermediate label, and you have to deal with the badly designed gates of the map. There's not a lot of jokes here that are worth laughing at in today's day and age. There's a few bad ones though, with Wave 3 starting out with audio blasting your ears off with a mission maker ranting angrily. This is another example of the mission taking itself too seriously, with the chief soldier here being a pepped up Jackapoa, being awful to fight against with auto jumping and infinitely firing off rockets. 4th wave for the most part is about robots wearing cosmetics. The 5th wave's entire shtick is robots having their name tags reversed, with a chief demo coming out in the beginning and doing exactly that. 6th wave, much like Salty Boys, has a setup to a punchline, basically a reference to Ultra Instinct Shaggy, which in this mission is basically just a punching chief heavy. Overall, it's a meme mission that reaches past its label and maxes out the volume at one point with an outdated punchline. Pepper Boys is F. Welcome to My Mine is a 12-wave mission, which is where we have our mission with the highest wave count in Memes 1. As one might expect, the experience is very memey, and it starts with the first 3 waves being duds, telling you to F4. Unfortunately, this is the second mission where it blows your eardrums out by having conch soldiers blow their horns out on the 4th wave. All that said, I'd rather have this than whatever Pepper Boys cooked up. The 5th wave is where we have our 4th major crits joke. It starts off with Sensor getting the beggars out before spawning 5 major crits that die off naturally one by one. You deal with 69 standard robots of a few varieties, then you deal with the real major crits that has negative health regen. The 6th wave has a fake wave bar, with it having several sergeant crits with low health and a tiny bomb carrier starting out. Yes, this is in fact a gnome reference.
He did the same joke about 7 times already. I don't think it's funny anymore.
The 7th wave is quite weird. It's a satirical reference to the hellish landscape that is the Two Cities Man-Up tour. The 2 icons belonging to the Scottish Resistance demo and Chris meta combo seems to be a reference to the 2 toxic MvM players at the time. I don't know who though. After these waves, there's not much else to see. You'll be shooting down giant heads, giant down with shooting out human classes as projectiles, a wave where you'll be playing hide and seek with spies that are rather giant, the last of which is hiding in spawn, and the 11th wave having an absolute abomination of an icon for a boss that is named Major Disappointment, that does very low damage and for the most part only requires a body block check to get through. The 12th and final wave is a song reference. If the title didn't give it away, it just blasts music the whole way through as you're fighting melee fodder of 3 types. That's really it. A few parts of the mission were okay-ish, but the rest weren't too substantial, and it does love having loud audio at times.
Welcome to my mind.
Is D. Bison Barrage is a 5-wave mission, and there's not really much I can say about the mission itself other than the featuring Bison soldiers. I mean, seriously, every soldier you'll see will shoot out Bison projectiles with varying attributes, and of course there are caustic Bison soldiers that all deal bleed damage. Yeah, the mission gets really tiring after the second wave, but if there's anything to take away from this mission though, is that the mission features stand-in tanks, and wouldn't you know it, they are soldiers, but at least they have the proper appearances, and yeah, you can easily body block them. How coincidental that they would reappear in Posted Barbecue this year. The final subwave will end with a Chief Bison soldier that seems like it's a typical rapid fire Bison soldier. Editor, please flash up the title card of this soldier, thank you. Anyways, I'm putting Bison Barrage in D tier for repeating the same joke over and over again. Dihydrogen Monoxide is a 10-wave mission, and is the last one we'll cover. The waves do have somewhat interesting stuff going on, so I guess I'll just go through each one. Wave 1 has all blast soldiers being named Wiki Shrags. Wave 2 has a bunch of soldiers and demos setting off smoke explosions. It's an H3H3 reference, that's all you need to know. Wave 3 is all furry shit, cosmetics and names that I dare not say out loud. And Wave 4 is our final gnome reference of the day. But you gotta kill a specific spy bot to beat it, which is the level 100 Node Father? Wave 5 has fast moving tanks in 2 groups of 4. Wave 6, you just kill a chief heavy named heavy_TF2 while dealing with swarms of spy bots being not heavy_TF2. Wave 7 has 42069 on its bot counts, not much here besides a Tide Pod reference. Wave 8 is our last major crits joke of the day. Gotta shoot down 168 of them before getting to the real one, which shoots an infinite barrage of Crockets all over. Wave 9 is a standard wave, the only joke here is that the giants are small size. And then the final 10th wave is a troll phase. Just a chief pyro that launches players up in the air with its flames. Oh, Jesus, that was a lot to get through. Just for me to say that the mission really should not have shoved in so many jokes that last for a long time. And to be honest, quite a few of them did feel like filler. Dihydrogen Monoxide is D. And there you have it. Everything, or at least most of what you should know about the very first April Fools operation. A surprisingly lengthy retrospective for a rather short chapter, but yeah, there really wasn't a lot to miss out on. All you needed to know really was that it was one of the main causes for the next mainland operation to be delayed by 5 months, but it was still important enough to establish 4 additional operations within its genre for years to come. I know I was supposed to cover Madness vs. Machines first, since I was planning on skipping over this one after Canteen Crasher, but I figured a short memes detour would be a nice change of pace for you and me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and consider liking and subscribing so that you may be added onto a major crits wave, or else you will be gnomed. And I hope you look forward to the other 4 meme operations, the next of which will be Mash Mediocrity.